Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2018 Ford F-150. I want to walk through how to install the Roadmaster InvisiBrake. The InvisiBrake is going to be a braking system that mounts inside the vehicle to allow the towed vehicle to not only slow but stop itself while it's being flat towed. That way we're not depending on the brakes on the RV to stop both vehicles. So let's face it, placing brakes on the RV can be very expensive. The braking system is going to be a proportional braking system, so it's going to match the brake pressure that we apply in the motorhome while we're towing it. It's going to be one of the 5 main components of flat tow, the F-150. There's going to be a 6th component that is going to be required. You have your base plate, which is the connection point between the tow bar and the motorhome, attached to the chassis of the vehicle. You have your tow bar, which attaches or connects between your base plate and the hitch on your motorhome. We have our wiring, which allows our towed vehicle to receive light functions from the motorhome while we're pulling it. Safety cables, which are going to be a secondary safety device. And then, of course, for the F-150, it does require a 6th component, and that's going to be a brake light relay installed. Now, when you compare this to some of the other systems out there, this is going to be more of a permanent installation. The downside into this is the main unit has to be mounted inside the vehicle. So, you know, you're talking about something about this big, and in some vehicles it can be very hard to find a place to mount it. Other than that, the wiring portion of it is going to be pretty straightforward. Everything just plugs directly into the main unit, and then you connect the wires outside of that. It is going to have a pulley that has to be connected to the firewall. That's what is going to pull on the brake pedal arm. Some of the other systems, for instance, your portable ones, you don't have any wiring you really have to do other than your breakaway switch. That just sits in the floorboard, and you can take it out. You can use it in different vehicles. We compare it to like the Stay and Play Duo. Stay and Play Duo can be mounted anywhere on the vehicle. The only thing that really has to be mounted inside is the cylinder for the brake pedal arm, and then of course your on and off switch to turn the system on. So again, my honest opinion, this probably would not be my first choice of systems to install for a more permanent installation. And when we apply the brakes in the motorhome, the light will come on, telling us that the braking system in the vehicle or in the towed vehicle is applying the brakes. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's walk through how to get it installed. To start your installation, you're going to determine where you're going to mount your operating unit. We determined that the best place to put it is going to be right underneath the driver's seat towards the back. One thing you want to keep in mind is that if you have powered seats, what I suggest doing is setting it back there, put your seat all the way down as far as it'll go, and then go all the way back with it. Then take the system and you can push it up against there, just lightly push it up against the back edge of the seat, and that'll be the spot where you have to actually mount it. So I haven't bolted it to the floor yet because I'm going to check it one more time before I get to that point. You're going to have, in your braking system kit, you're going to have some wires that look like this, airline tube, you're going to have a black and red wire, and you're going to have an all black wire they're going to have plugs on them. These all need to run through the firewall to the engine compartment. You're going to have a light hose, a very small one like this in your kit as well. This needs to stay inside the vehicle. It's going to run from the unit to a cylinder, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute. So this is what your cables look like with the plugs on them. You're just going to plug right into, they're all going to fit in one spot on the back of the main unit. Your airline tube, it's going to come with a vacuum line. You want to install that on the port coming off the back, and then your airline tube is going to go into the back of it. That allows it to bend slightly, because this is a harder line, allows us to bend slightly to make it a little bit easier to install. And then last but not least, the very small line that goes through a cylinder, you're going to cut it to size and just go right into that port right there. There's a slit right underneath the front part of the seat that allowed me to run underneath the carpet, and then they come out right here. What I did is I just zip tied them together. Once I have everything ran out, there's a grommet right up on the firewall right here. Again, the only thing we're running outside from these wires coming off our unit are going to be the red to black, the all black, the green, yellow, brown, and white, and the airline tube. This smaller tube, again, connects into the cylinder, which is mounted right here in the corner. The cylinder can really be mounted anywhere. It can be zip tied to factory wiring, how I have it here. It does come with a clamp if you wanted to mount it to the sidewall there. You just want to make sure that the line coming off the bottom of it, which is going to be this cable, has to be routed, kind of looped. Make sure it doesn't have like a big bend in it. What it's going to do is it's going to route up. It's going to go to a pulley that needs to be mounted on the firewall. You want to mount the bracket onto the brake pedal arm, and you want that pulley so that when it pulls that wire, it's going in a straight line. So when your brake pedal is depressed or pulled by that wire, it's going in a line. You also want to make sure that on the back side here, this bolt, where that wire is going into it, if you're driving it normally, this bolt is not going to hit that pulley when you press on the brakes. The wire on the pulley, or coming through the pulley to your brake pedal arm, needs to have about a 1/4 inch of play in it. So if you have adjustable pedals like this, you want to make sure you adjust the pedals all the way out when you're setting this up. Once you get it all mounted, this bracket here, you can see how these stick out. We can go back and we can cut the ends off so they don't affect the driver's foot when it's on the pedal. The black wire is going to run all the way to the front of the vehicle. That's what's going to connect to your breakaway switch. The red and black wire are going to be connected to the positive and negative side of the battery. The green, yellow, brown, and white are going to be connected to the diode wiring ran on the vehicle. If you don't have that, you're going to want to do that while you're installing this system. And then, of course, our airline tube is going to go to the vacuum line coming off the booster, which we'll show you how to install that here in just a little bit. Other than that, once you get all your wires out and in the area where you got enough out there, what I did is zip tied it here, bundle it up, zip tied it there, and it will actually fit right underneath this panel, nice and neat. Once we get it in place, we'll go ahead and cut this to size. And push that in until it stops. Give it a little tug. And what I'm going to do is I'll take some wire loom. Doesn't come in the kit. Take some wire loom and I'll cover up all these wires. That way they kind of match the carpet. It looks like a professional install. As I mentioned, our green, yellow, brown, and white wire from our unit that we ran through the grommet and the firewall needs to connect to our diode wiring kit, which are the same color. So this is what it'll look like. You're going to match the colors. The only difference is on the white one, you're going to take a piece of extra wire, you're going to add it onto one side, and you're going to ground it. Where I grounded it was right here to this factory body ground. It's going to come with the ring terminals. It's going to come with butt connectors. I suggest switching them to heat shrink. The heat shrink is going to protect those connections from any moisture or anything like that. Once you're done with that, you can run your vacuum line, which is your airline tube, to the line coming from your brake booster. Now, I went on this side. This is a hard line here. I went on as long as you're going to the engine. What I did is I cut a section of the factory line out. It's going to come with a T-fitting. Now, this line, this factory line, is much wider, or a little bit wider, I should say. So you're going to take the T-fitting, you're going to put it in, but you're going to add clamp on this side with the factory line, just so it squeezes that hose around that T-fitting. You're going to get vacuum line that comes in the kit. You're going to put on the other side of the T. You're going to have a check valve on one side it's going to have a red ring. There's going to be an arrow on here. You want the arrow to face towards the engine, which means the red line that's on it is going to be on the engine side. You add that on, and then you're going to add a clamp there again to squeeze the factory line around that check valve. You're going to have a small piece of line like this. You're going to add it onto the barbed end of your T-fitting, the small end, and you're going to run your vacuum line into the opposite end. And you can see I just zip tied it here. That way if they need to fill oil, it's not hanging over the top of it. This keeps it out of the way. So you want to make sure if you do that, you don't have a kink in your line so you have plenty of airflow. The red and black wire coming from inside the vehicle, connected to the main unit, needs to route to the battery. The battery's on the passenger side. So what I did is this cardboard panel, I took it and I tucked it back behind there, went across to the passenger side. You can see where I came down here. I went back behind all this wiring, zip tied it to the positive wire coming up, and then my ground wire separated and came over to this side. Added a ring terminal on each side. Positive side, you're going to have a fuse holder that comes in the kit. You need to make sure you add that on, and then we'll make this connection last. Last thing we have to do from here is add on our breakaway switch, plug the two plugs together, and then add our wire for our indicator light in our motorhome. We need to add the wire connected to the brake switch inside the vehicle. In your kit, you're going to have a black wire. It's going to look like this. It's going to have a bullet end on it, a female bullet end. It's going to have a long piece of wire on it. The end of it, this end is outside. The other end needs to go in through the grommet through the firewall. It's going to get connected to the brake light switch. The only thing from here is once you get this wire connected to the brake light switch inside the vehicle, add your 6-pole plug to your diode wiring, and then you need to, again, add on your breakaway switch here. This cable that's running inside, it has to be hooked to the hot side of the brake light switch. Now, this vehicle also has to have a brake light relay installed. You're going to have a green wire that runs to the hot wire. That's what this wire is going to connect to, is a green wire coming off that going to the hot wire on the brake light switch. Last but not least, on the vehicle side, we'll hook up to our battery. You want to make sure the fuse is not in the holder when you make the connection. Once you make the connection to the positive and negative side, then you can add your fuse. Once we got the vehicle side done, again, now we can go over and run our indicator light on the motorhome side. On the motorhome side, to install your indicator light, you're going to have a long cable. Again, it's going to have the female for the bullet connector. You're going to route the bare end up inside the cab of the vehicle. You need to get it up behind the dash, which is this black wire here. You're going to need to have a ground wire, so you can ground it anywhere as long as it's on a metal surface. Your indicator light is going to have a red and white wire. Red wire is going to be positive. White wire is going to be ground. This is going to be your sound bar. It's going to have a red and white wire on it. You're going to connect the two red wires from the indicator light and the sound bar together. They're going to connect to the black wire, which is going back to the bullet connection that's going to connect to the vehicle to indicate when the light or when the brakes are being applied. The white wire from the light, white wire from the sound bar are going to connect together, which are going to go to your ground wire. The kit is going to come with the butt connectors. How we did it was just popped out the this little panel here, ran the wires up, drill a small hole in your dash. That'll allow you to put your indicator light there, and then we can take this, we can zip tie it to this wiring on the back side of that brake controller there, and that'll clean it up. There is a sticker that comes with this light. I will say, one, this is not a flat dash. 95% of the time, the sticker does not stay on. So I chose not to put it on, mainly because of the way this dash is. Probably not going to stick to it. The indicator light is going to have a couple little tabs on it, so you want to make sure you drill a hole only big enough that all will pop into place. Again, this connector here It's going to be the same as on the vehicle end. You want to make sure that this is coming out of the back of the motorhome. When you're running the wire up underneath your dash in the motorhome, you want to make sure, if at all possible, run it along the frame. Try to find some factory wiring. You want to make sure you're staying away from anything hot or moving. Once you have everything connected on the motorhome side, go ahead and connect your two vehicles. Make sure everything is working together between the motorhome and the towed vehicle, and you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at and installation on the InvisiBrake on a 2018 Ford F-150.